With Liverpool absolutely running away with the league, let's look at some other cautionary tales from other leaders who failed to lock it up. One story per country though, and they're not all league titles. There are varying degrees to these collapses, of course. Not all of them were massive leads. Some are just tragic collapses at the last hurdle. Also, for the conspiracy theorists out there, I'm not jinxing anything. Don't worry, Liverpool will be fine. Okay? By the way, I'm Adrian, and I will of course be your guide on this journey through time and tragedy. These are some of my favorite stories, of course, so if you want to share your favorites, just leave them in the comment section or hit me up on Twitter at Rabona_TV. Let's go, starting with one that I personally am not excited to speak of, but will do so anyways because I'm surprised it doesn't make many of these sort of lists. The 2012-13 season is easily the most painful in my recent memory as a Benfiquista, but I'm also cheating a bit in including it. Sort of. No, not really. These are my rules. I'm looking at every competition within this particular season, because the team was dominant, though Porto was just as dominant throughout the season. Benfica was in first place for 17 of the 30 match days during the 12-13 season, and they were unbeaten with 3 matches to go. Against Estoril, Benfica ties 1-1, giving Porto the chance to come within 2 points of them, prior to Benfica and Porto meeting at the Dragão on the penultimate match day. A win would have killed Porto's title ambitions. A draw, Benfica would be fine. So, what happens? Lima puts Benfica ahead in the 18th minute against Porto, but just 7 minutes later, a Maxi Pereira own goal, bastard, secret agent, drew the team's level. Benfica knows they just need to hang on, and in the 90th minute, out of nowhere, Kelvin strikes past Artur, prompting this image that haunted my dreams for years to come. Porto take a 1-point lead into the final match day, and with both teams winning their final match, Porto won the league 78 points to Benfica 77, with Porto having an invincible season. Now, what makes this the worst collapse I've witnessed from Benfica? Later on the 15th of May, Benfica lost the Europa League final thanks to that late header from Ivanovic in the 93rd minute. So I watched Benfica lose the league in stoppage time, then the Europa League final in stoppage time. May 26th, Benfica is playing in the Taça de Portugal final, our FA Cup, and we lost 2-1 against Vitória Guimarães thanks to a Ricardo goal in the 81st minute. In the span of exactly 2 weeks, May 12th versus Porto, then May 15th versus Chelsea, and May 26th against Vitória de Guimarães, we went from speaking about a treble to 0 trophies. So yeah. AZ Alkmaar. This is a bit of a different kind of title collapse. How? Well, Louis van Gaal's AZ weren't the out-and-out leaders for an extended period of time in the Eredivisie. They had, however, closed a 7-point gap to catch up to the usual suspects in Dutch football, PSV and Ajax. In fact, they had done so well that their fate was in their own hands on the final match day of the season. Van Gaal's boys just needed to get a win in Rotterdam against 16th placed Excelsior, and the title would be theirs. 16th place. However, in the 19th minute against Excelsior, AZ keeper Waterman got himself sent off and gave away a penalty in the process, putting AZ against it early. They did tie it later in the half via a direct free kick, but in the 60th, Excelsior took the lead again. AZ hadn't won the Eredivisie since 1981, 26 years prior. Surely they weren't going to crumble with the title nearly in their hands against a 16th place team? Well, AZ scored again through Danny Koevermans to tie things up and give them a fighting chance. Going further to better their chances, Excelsior then received a red card while the match was tied. So 10 man per side. AZ have to seize it now, right? 92nd minute, Excelsior with a free kick outside of the box, and the rebound is put in uncontested as AZ's players looked like they were stunned into submission. 3-2 to 16th placed Excelsior. That was the final score. AZ failed to win the title when it should have been so easy for them, relinquishing it to PSV, who in fact lifted up a replica of the Eredivisie trophy, given that league officials thought there was no way that AZ would mess this up, so the trophy was there with them in Rotterdam at Excelsior's Stadio Woudenstein. Guys, I'm cheating again. Bayer Leverkusen, a team that has never won the Bundesliga, looks as if they would pull it off during the 2001-02 season. With 2 matches left to play, Leverkusen were ahead of Dortmund by 2 points, with their midfielder, Michael Ballack, leading the team towards a treble. They had a DFB Pokal final against Schalke to look forward to, as well as a Champions League final against Real Madrid's Galacticos to look forward to. But first, let's sort out the league. And we have Leverkusen traveling away to Nuremberg, their second to last match of the season, and they lost 1-0, while Dortmund won 4-3 over Hamburg, meaning they took a 1-point lead over Leverkusen with 1 match to go. Sound familiar, Benfica this? And I guess everyone who has watched this video so far and heard what I said about Benfica collapsing against Porto. For their final match of the season, they needed a win and a Dortmund loss. Michael Ballack scored a brace to give Leverkusen the 2-1 win, but Dortmund also won 2-1 to lift the Bundesliga trophy. The search for a first Bundesliga title continued for Leverkusen, but they had a chance to make amends for that in the DFB Pokal final on May 11th. Well, they lost 4-2 thanks to a second half collapse, handing Schalke the title. 0-2 so far, but hey, no problem guys, we'll win the Champions League, right? It's just Real Madrid. Well, at Hampden Park in Glasgow, Bayer Leverkusen fell victim to not only a Raúl goal, but one of the Champions League's most iconic goals of all time. Zidane's left-footed side volley that curled into the top corner to make it 2-1 Real Madrid, and that was the eventual winner. Leverkusen came close on occasion, but fell to Real Madrid. Just like Benfica, they went from a potential treble to finishing runners-up in every competition in the span of a couple of weeks. 4 days after losing the DFB Pokal, they lost the Champions League final. Ouch. And for Michael Ballack, it got even worse. Guy went on to lose the 2002 World Cup final as well. That's a rough one for him. You've got Beckham, Ronaldo, Zidane, and Luis Figo, Guti, Helguera, Raúl, and Salgado. But do you recall when they had a 12-point lead and lost it all? Oh, Figo, the big-nosed beaut. We're talking Real Madrid from their peak Galactico days. Fresh off of beating Real Sociedad to the 02-03 La Liga title, Real Madrid now boasting the likes of David You've got Beckham, Ronaldo. Sorry, I will never do that again in this video, I promise you. But yeah, Beckham, Zidane, Ronaldo, Raúl, Figo, McManaman, Hierro, etc., etc. They had a badass team, and this badass team was dummying the league come about March. Wow, this Carlos Queiroz guy is doing a great job. He had them ahead of Deportivo La Coruña by a full 12 points, with the same amount of matches left to play. That being 12, not the equal amount to Deportivo. Sorry, that was confusing. 1-1 with Santander follows, then a 1-1 with Real Zaragoza. It's just a wobble, right? They'll get over it. 4-2 loss against Bilbao. Hey, 5-1 win over Sevilla. The magic's back. No. Of their final 8 matches, Real Madrid won 2 and lost 6. The Galacticos collapsed big time, losing all 4 of their final home matches of the season, including a 2-1 against Barcelona, 86-minute winner from Xavi. Ouch. Real Madrid finished in 4th, while Valencia took the title. And Queiroz, he went back to United to be Ferguson's assistant again. And now, a juicy one. A tale of the tune. It's the 1995-96 season, and Kevin Keegan has Newcastle United absolutely flying, having only been promoted to the Premier League in 1993. They were so good to watch that Sky Sports referred to Keegan's Newcastle as the Entertainers. Ooh, sounds good, right? Well, these entertainers had a quick start to the season, and by the time January of 1996 had come to a close, they had a 12-point lead. Well, actually, they had a bit of a slow start, but following that until January, they killed it. Newcastle at this point hadn't won a league title since 1927. Spoiler, Newcastle at this point, present day, still hasn't won a league title in England's top flight. Since 1927, obviously. In February, they still had an 8-point lead over Manchester United, but in their next 8 matches leading into March and April, they won 2, drew 1, and lost 5. United, they were getting 1-0 wins all over the place courtesy of Cantona and Schmeichel, keeping United's young team winning. By March 20th, 2 matches after beating Newcastle 1-0 on the tune, United had taken the lead from Newcastle. Skipping ahead to just 2 matches remaining, and United just barely above Newcastle. Ferguson decided to play some mind games by saying that teams like Nottingham may not go all out against Keegan's entertainers, and boy oh boy did that ever get into Keegan's head, prompting his infamous...
And I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
What made Ferguson's comments even more pointed was how both United and Newcastle had to play Nottingham in the penultimate match day of the season, with United playing them on April 28th and Newcastle on May 2nd. United beat them 5-0 at Old Trafford, while Newcastle drew 1-1 away. United's lead increased to 2 points over Newcastle, with the Magpies playing their final match of the season at home against Spurs, and United going away to Middlesbrough, needing a win to get the job done. Well, completing their collapse, Newcastle drew 1-1 with Tottenham, and Ferguson's Young Guns won 3-0, giving Sir Alex his 3rd league title. Now, Curly Keegan got some revenge by beating United 5-0 in the next season, but Keegan resigned in January, with Kenny Dalglish rallying Newcastle to another second-place finish behind United. And they've never been seen in a title race again. Well, that's not technically true. They had a couple of decent runs, like in 2003, but they unfortunately have one of the most iconic breakdowns in Premier League history. Funnily enough, United was on the wrong side of one of these stories in the 97-98 season, when Arsenal won 10 matches on the trot to win the Premier League by a single point, despite losing their last 2 matches. That's how big their turnaround was. Anyways, these are some of my favorites. I'm excited to read about some of yours in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, then a like is always welcome, and a subscription is just, you're spoiling me. I'm Adrian, this is Rabona TV, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Love it.